do you want to start your talk for the episode? Because you're leading, right?
If I do, I'm talking about nuggies.
That's your prerogative.
You know, I have a subtle feeling that this right now is the start of the episode.
Well, if that's the case. Hey, Jacob.
What's up?
Oh, Lord. I got a nuggie question for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you ever gotten nuggies from one restaurant, but then dipped it in sauce from another restaurant?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like what we're doing today. We're
You know
taking we're taking the sauce of other systems and applying them to 5th edition. Today we're talking about weird and interesting game mechanics.
That is true.
And hello
Weird
and
is
welcome.
such a strong word.
Hello and welcome, Travelers, Tips, and Tales. My name is Ben.
I'm Jake.
Mike.
And joining us today, special guest, Lance.
What's up, Lance?
I don't know how I got here. All I know is somebody jumped me in the parking lot, put it over my head, and here I am. Hi guys, how are you doing?
You said get on the podcast or else.
We're doing
If anybody's listening to this, please send help. I'm in a nondescript building somewhere.
Guys, the Stockholm hasn't set in yet. What are we doing?
He's in a
More chicken
nondescript-
nuggets.
But give him more chicken nuggets.
Just keep giving me chicken nuggets. I'm so confused. They put all the sauces in front of me and they keep taking notes on which ones I dip.
That's pretty good.
So
For the
yeah.
record, honey mustard. Honey mustard is the best sauce.
You right.
Respectable.
You right. All right. He's not my
Respect
favorite
all
guest
sauces.
we've ever had. No,
Respect all sauces, but I
we
still
do
have
not
one.
respect all sauces. Some sauces are not good.
Yeah, like when you mix ranch with barbecue. Jacob.
May I interject and just
Yes.
say I do not like ranch as a dipping sauce. I know that's controversial, but I don't like to dip things in.
I'm sad.
What do you do?
Today-
Drink it?
I'm sad, Jacob.
Alright, guys, why is he even here?
So here we're talking
That's a good
about
question.
weird and interesting game mechanics, surprisingly without a guest.
And I'm cut.
Don't worry, guys. Anything he says, I'll just cut out. Don't worry.
So
Oh, no.
today we're talking
Not a
about.
single word.
Today we are talking about some weird and interesting game mechanics,
I'm just
and
kidding.
not from 5th edition. Although I'm cheating and I am including 5th edition because it's weird. But our special guest Lance wanted to come in and talk about that. But first things first, I gotta ask, what is your experience with D&D and tabletop RPGs in general?
How long do you have?
Hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
okay,
episodes
let me
are
hurry up
supposed
then.
to be an hour, but we almost always go over by about 10 minutes.
That's fair. I, like Russell, I've been doing the role-playing game stuff, D&D, since I was very little. So probably 20, at least 5 years.
25 years.
At
That's
least.
pretty respectable.
Just give or
I'm sure you
take.
have a lot of,
I don't know.
I'm sure you have a lot of games under your belt.
Yes, not just D&D. I mean, all the editions of D&D, even that which shall not be named, but other systems
Thank
too.
you.
One of the earliest systems, including D&D, I played. Big Eye, Small Mouth. I don't know if you could get away with calling that today, but it was basically Anime the role-playing game.
That
That's
sounds
so
like
much.
Ben's kind of game.
Big
It was a D6 system, quite fun.
Hmm.
And then, I mean, over the years I've played so many systems. D&D, AD&D, second edition, the second edition's a little foggy, I will say that. Third
Yeah.
edition I remember more. 3.5, Pathfinder, Star Wars, Fantasy Flight Games version. Maybe the old one too.
Okay.
Marvel Superheroes was also one from when I was in single digits. And I still remember my first character in that system, Boombox.
Nice.
I want you to remember, I was single digits old when I made this character.
And now you are the age of blah blah blah.
Old enough. And I definitely didn't play Mutants and Masterminds and remake that character. No, I did. I totally did.
And now he is older than below 10. Somewhere above 10.
I might be the oldest one on this podcast right now.
That is guaranteed.
He's at least of working age.
Oh.
As far as I'm concerned, he may as well be an eldritch being because he owns the store.
That's true. That's true.
That is true. I, along with my brother, do own the local game store, Forgotten Path Games, in Vacaville. So that is very true.
Yeah.
But don't let that bias anything against me or in my favor, of course.
Of course not.
Yeah, of course.
I just want
Wink.
to pick up my pre-orders.
I'm sorry.
And this is something that I've just been curious about as a customer.
Okay.
You know, how has like the whole quarantine thing affected your guys' business?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the first couple months were rough because we were basically shut down for like 2 months. Didn't even have stuff open for retail.
Yeah.
We started doing, and that was super rough. Although I will say, a 2-month vacation was, minus worrying about what to do afterwards, was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, when you're being self-employed, time off is not a commonplace thing. But I mean, we've adapted. If you've been in here recently, we have definitely expanded our retail selection.
Very much.
Probably,
so,
I would say at least triple what we've had before, if not more.
I mean, just thinking about how much space it took up in the physical store compared to how much it takes now, wow, it's so much bigger.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Because we used to have basically massive play space, which is great for holding big tournaments on the weekend, multiple D&D games. We had a great guy, I think you know John. He did a kids game for younger kids for 5th edition, and that was great. Kids loved it, and that's not obviously happening. We can't have play space currently for safety reasons, conscientious reasons.
Which is
but by
so
that same
sad.
token, it is sad, and I do miss it. But I will say, when everything is cleared up and we can finally are at the end of everything, I'm gonna throw one hell of a party.
Oh yeah. I'll bring the pizza.
But one thing we did, we expanded our RPG selection too. We're still working on it too. As every week you come in, usually there's something new, there's something different. We're adding new racks. We're looking into racks. Like we got an entire Paizo display now for 2nd edition.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool. And there's a funny story behind that display. Might save that one. But we also got third-party stuff from Cobalt Press and stuff for D&D 5th edition. Because people don't realize there's actually a lot of other things. Because it's an open game license, I guess. A lot of people are making stuff now for 5th edition. I think Russell talked about this on his podcast, where we got 5th edition material for Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, My Little Pony for the kids.
Yeah.
Or for anybody that wants to use it, for whoever wants it, and it's Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, and Transformers. Which again, that just amused me. And then there's a miniature company that used to do D&D stuff in 3.5 actually, or in 3rd edition. They did a lot of steampunk stuff, steampunk, Full Metal Fantasy, whatever they want to call it. They had their own system for a while, and now I think they said this year they're going to put out a Kickstarter for their own 5th edition compatible book. 5th edition is, it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room now.
Yeah.
Whereas Paizo was before that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting flip.
So that
We
leads
could probably
me
do an
to
entire
my,
podcast on that.
That leads me to my next question. all
Sure.
these extra systems that are coming out, all these extra games, are there any systems that you like that you would want to bring to this conversation about weird and interesting game mechanics?
Segue to start things off, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit,
Very
just,
nice, very
just a subtle one.
Just
I
just a
applaud
lot
you.
of it.
And
That was smooth
secondary
like butter.
question. Secondary question: can we get these systems at your store?
For the most part, some are out of print that I'm going to talk about.
Dang.
Actually, I
Too
think
bad.
the only one that's out of print is like the old Fantasy Flight RPG they had for Warhammer 40k. I think that one's out of print because I think WizKids is going to do one. Oh, long story, but I think WizKids is going to do their own someday. Don't know though. But most of them can be ordered if I don't already have them. I think there's also Star Wars stuff is a little harder to get to now because rumor is they're working on a second edition.
Okay.
Oh.
But last I checked, I still have like at least 1 or 4 rule books, which I mean I'll explain to you when we get to the Star Wars system. But the first one I thought that'd be really cool. And this one, have you guys ever heard of a system called Fate?
I don't
have not.
think I had before talking to you a
So,
little bit about it.
I have to ask this question: is it related to the manga and anime series Fate?
I need you to no, just no. This
Okay.
might have not before. I don't know. It's not Fate Stay. What are they on? Grand Order? I don't even know what they're on anymore. Jesus. But no, Fate is a system. I think it's Evil Hat Productions. It's an interesting system. It's basically a D6 system, although I don't necessarily use the D6s. But the biggest thing is, right, your character sheet is set up in a way where one of the biggest things that define your character is what they call aspects. And aspects could be basically phrases that describe your character. Like when they did the Harry Dresden, they did Harry Dresden. I don't know if you know about the Dresden Files. They did an RPG for that, based in the Fate system.
Oh, nice.
So you have these couple aspects that can be used positively and negatively. Harry Dresden, the example in the book is he has an aspect called chivalry is not dead. So players could use that and tag that to get a bonus to a die roll, but the game master could also tag it to basically force something bad to happen and say, well, because of that aspect, you're going to have to do this.
Yeah.
So I
Double-edged sword.
like that aspect of it, although I will say sometimes coming up with aspects is like the hardest thing to do, because it's basically like coming up with a headline to a newspaper.
And you're doing it all by
story.
yourself, right? There's none like pre-given ones. It's all whatever you make
No,
up.
no, they give some examples,
Okay.
but I've always thought that would be an interesting concept to apply to characters. Whereas, because a lot of people, especially new players, have a hard time coming up with intricate backstories, interesting backstories because they're new, right? They've never done it before.
Yeah.
So I thought one thing you could do with that system is, in terms of 5th edition, you could tie this to the inspiration system. I think, instead of doing don't give me a full page background. Give me a couple paragraphs describing your thing and a couple aspects of your character. Is he hot-headed?
Okay, yeah.
Is he, is he headstrong? Things like that the GM could use to dictate certain actions. Hey, I'm going to give you an inspiration if you want me to use this hot-headed aspect on your character, but you're going to have to do something. In terms of applying it to 5th edition, I think you could, depending on the system, you could apply it on a lot of things, or you could just use it as a background building mechanic for people for their characters. Don't come up with a full story, but
Just
make
a couple of key aspects.
one-liners.
Yeah.
One-liners that you could say describe your character. I think one game I ran in the Fate system, we called it the Sky Pirates of Bastion. It was an original setting we did. We had this dude in armor, and his aspect was, I believe I can fly.
Yeah.
To represent him using his jetpack and him being headstrong. So, I thought that would be a cool mechanic in terms of just character building, if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree with that. pretty
I
neat.
can see that. I can see that being
So-
very useful
so-
for newer players.
So, here's a little example. Who runs Landers?
That would be
That's,
me.
Mike.
All right, can you think of like a phrase or something that would describe him?
Yeah, he's very in touch with nature.
So like he is one with nature.
Yeah.
That would be an aspect you could put on for him for a background thing.
Okay.
Wholesome.
Without
He's
diving
wholesome.
fully. Without diving
Hashtag-
fully.
Boy.
I have seen people do hashtag aspects too. It's pretty funny. That's more new though. Back in my day, we didn't use hashtags.
see, the hashtag aspects would be more of Spade, which is Jake's character. Hashtag Paunch.
Memeable. I make memes, people. Whether in game or out of game.
Then my characters
how
are
we-
like hashtag traumatized.
Gregor.
That's real bad. That's real bad. I like that though.
It's a great idea, especially for new players, because I
Yeah.
play with a lot of new players now that my girlfriend is running her own games. And I think a lot of them struggle with their backstories and struggle coming up with ideas and things like that. So I think that would be a very useful system to recommend to them.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds amazing for new players because backstory. Like with my first character, I literally was like, "Where do halflings come from, Ben?" And he was like, "Well, they're all enslaved." I was like, "All right, mine was an escaped slave. I'll figure out the rest later." And then that's exactly what I did. So like if I had that at the beginning, I feel like I could have really built my character from the ground up more with a better foundation from the start, and could have had a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And in the Fate system, those aspects could evolve too during story, related events and stuff.
Yeah, character
So-
changes, character
Yeah,
arcs,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, obviously. Big fan.
Yeah, definitely
I
sounds like
am
something we'll have to check out.
I mean, there's more mechanics behind it, but like that's just basically stripping it down to the basics, without
Yeah.
getting anything else.
Yeah.
Whetting the appetite, so to speak.
So
gotta
to
cleanse
speak,
the palate.
Cleanse the palate.
I also see you put down a few other things, though, besides just the Fate system. You brought a lot of things.
I did because I this is something I've thought about for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about as I've gone across multiple settings and when I review other systems. Like, I know you guys don't like mentioning the edition that's not being named,
Yes.
but around the time that came out, afterwards, something else came out called 13th Age,
Okay.
which is basically if that system was handled better
Oh, okay.
and not
How
so
it was.
MMO-ish. Right.
Not how it was.
So if Wizards of the Coast didn't try to give everybody nightmares and PTSD.
No, they were just trying to, sell WoW. It's fine. They're trying to get them WoW players, I guess. I could not tell you what they were thinking behind that system. Although, as many problems as you guys have with that system, I didn't hate it. It just should not have been labeled under that.
Yeah,
Under
I can
such
agree
a
with that.
weighty brand name.
It shouldn't have been associated with Gary Gygax in any way.
Yeah.
It was disgraceful.
Fair. But 13th Age is very similar. It has a couple things I like. One thing that I don't think you could do is the magic quirks, which I love for the for any magic weapon. It has quirks. So like one is if a sword is vain, you have to polish it every day, otherwise you lose the magical bonus. You have to keep it in tip-top shape.
Yeah.
Which that's a system that I don't think you use. But it has two things that I love. One, doesn't matter what D&D system I play in, I've always hated how the alignment system works.
Yeah.
I hate
I think that
being
a
labeled.
lot of people can agree.
the chaotic good, lawful good stuff. So what 13th Age did, they did basically a more of an icon relationship system
Okay.
where you could have, and the icons they're talking about are like major players in your world. Like this guy, like one guy is like king of one of the biggest nations.
Yeah.
Does your character have a positive relationship with him and his kingdom? Is it conflicted or is it negative? And usually they have you choose like, I forget what they say usually when character creations, like you choose X amount to be positive, like one negative and one conflicted, something like that, which also ties back to character building. It's like, all right, well, why do you have a negative relationship with that guy?
Mm.
Why do you have a positive? Why do you have a conflict?
It just
And
kind of
that
gives
is
your
their-
character more depth all around, you know.
Right, because let me tell you, like, I don't like the entire lawful good thing, because I'll tell you right now, I have run games where I have put lawful good paladins in a situation where they do bad things unknowingly, and by the strict alignment system that would make them lose their powers, but I'm like, well, the situation is different. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I like that alignment kind of system where it's like, well, it's not about me being lawful good chaotic. It's, well, what's my relationship with like 3 key kingdom, icons in my world, which I think is a great thing to do for especially people that like to do their own original world. I'm looking at a couple people on this podcast, I'm assuming, in metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly one of us.
Right.
Mainly one of us,
I'm looking at
kind
you,
of another
Ben.
one, and not at all me.
Look, just because I ran my game in his store every day for like 2 years does not.
And we played in said game in his store for like 2 years.
Oh, that reminds me. As soon as quarantine is lifted and you put seats back in your store, I am running at least one game there every week.
I'm okay with that. I'll have the tables for it.
All right.
I will be bringing in all these new players that I've acquired into your store every week.
Yes.
Get them to buy the shiny clickety clackities.
Yes, the shanky
Clickety-clackities.
No, the first thing they're going to buy is dice. It's like the first thing our new players buy is dice.
Oh yeah, gotta get the click clacks.
This is the first thing I buy today.
Speaking of dice, another thing. Have you ever run in combats that run super long?
Oh
yeah.
Because like maybe
Yeah.
your characters just can't hit. You have
Try
a bad
2
string of luck.
actual months.
Right. Well, 13th Age also has this nifty little mechanic for their combat called escalation dice.
All right.
And it's
how's that
basically it's kind of like a turn counter. So starting not on turn 1, but like the following turn, it goes up to 1. The die turns to 1. And all player characters can add 1 to their attack rolls. The following turn it'll go up to 2. The following turn it'll go up to 3. I don't know if there's a max, but I think it goes up to like at least 6.
So when I looked it up, it said that it was up to a maximum of 6.
Yeah,
So
'cause
it's up to
basically a
1 minute
six-sided die.
worth of combat.
So
Right now.
normal enemies can't use the escalation die. That's usually only reserved for player characters and devils in that system. Devils have a rule called Devil's Due, which means the players can opt to use the escalation die, but if they do, devils get a bonus.
Because devils do
And if
what
they-
devils do.
And if they sit
Now
out, then
it's- then they will not. The devils will not get that bonus. But if anybody uses it, you got to pay the devil's due.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, and they have a couple other monsters that use it. And what I've always thought, I love the idea of using that for like, if you know, all right, well, this might be, I don't want this to be like, kill them. But I also thought for an interesting mechanic, if you let the, like, not all bad guys, but like named bad guys or nemesis, if you will, get to use the
Yeah, like boss
escalation dice
fights.
too. Boss fights.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I personally am a fan of having my party be a little overpowered. You know, like I want a heroic story. I personally don't strive for tragic stories, but you know,
right.
so I think it's also cool that it kind of boosts the party a little bit.
Right. I mean, Pathfinder really put out the idea of basically the adventurers are superheroes if you really look at some of the stuff on them.
Oh yeah.
Which is not a bad way to look at it, because you are the mythical heroes. You are the Hercules. You're the Perseus, Odysseus, Theseus. You know. I'm sorry I'm on a Greek tangent because I've been playing Odyssey of the Dragon Lords for 5th edition.
It's okay. I've been waiting to use some
based-
Theros.
Oh, you got a sick Pelucranos on? That'll be great.
Oh yeah.
I'm the one who bought that model, so be afraid.
So what do you guys think of the escalation die?
I love it. I think it's very cool.
I think it's a very useful mechanic if combat gets too long. I know I probably could have used that when I had a party of like 12. That would have been amazing to have that, but
Yeah,
There's your first problem.
a party of 12.
that was not the first problem. That was the result of many problems.
The ideal party, I've always said this, is between 4 to maybe 6 is on the top end.
I always say
12,
5.
like, well, yes, 1 GM, 4 players is like the classic, right? That's
Yeah.
the classic
Yeah,
number.
that's the classic, and I'm willing to throw in a 5th to that 4-man party.
When you get to 12, you
Things
crazy,
get a little bumpy.
little bumpy. I don't know about that. I don't know
remember-
about that.
I remember there's like a kind of convenience store down the parking lot of Forgotten Paths, and I would take my turn in that 12-person game, and then I would go there and buy snacks, and then come back, and it still wouldn't be my turn.
Yeah.
I'd be gone for like half an hour maybe.
And that's the problem when you have 12 players or anything
Yeah.
really past 6 to 7. Like,
I would
it's-
argue that there are
super
numerous problems.
Right. But you know what helps with problems? Which is this is the worst segue, and I apologize. Let's talk about assets. Systems. In a little system. I'm not very good at segues.
Hey,
I
you're
was
the
trying to
first-
give one to you by saying the word numerous.
I will say,
Oh,
you were the first
dang
guest to segue themselves.
Yeah.
Ha! Doing my best.
That's good
There's a
enough for
system
me.
called Numenera.
Oh.
You guys know a guy named Monty Cook? Do you know who Monty Cook is?
I personally do not know.
I know Monty Python.
Oh, this is me just throwing my nerd card on the table. Monty Cook
that's
is
fine.
one of the guys who contributed and helped develop, I think it was like 3rd edition D&D.
Oh,
He's like
cool.
he's a big name in the industry, so to speak. So once upon a time, he made his own system based on D20s. It's called Numenera, and that's a good system. I've played that system. That's a lot of fun.
Alright.
I'm not going to go fully into it. It's really good. The basic, what I do have to go into is one of the basic systems that uses target numbers and difficulties on a D20.
okay.
So like, opening a door would be difficulty 0. You can automatically do it.
All right.
Opening a jam door might be difficulty. They do it in increments of 3, so it might usually 3, 6, 9, depending how hard it is.
Okay.
When we get to like difficulties 23, we're talking like, all right, you are basically trying to lift a mountain or something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very extreme. So they do multiples of 3, and usually what happens is he goes, all right, go ahead and make a skill roll. I have the difficulty in my head, and it's usually they can say it or they can not. It just depends on the GM.
Yeah.
But they have this. You roll a d20. You're trying to get as close. You're trying to get the difficulty number, or higher. And if you get like an 18, you get a bonus. If you get 19 to 20, it's like a super bonus. In combat, it can be extra damage too. But they have this thing. It's called assets and assistance. Which, I mean, they have it modeled in a couple different ways. Like if somebody's helping you this in like Pathfinder, or at least 1st edition, you could get like +2 to your roll
Yeah.
for every guy assisting or something like that. This changes that math from an addition to a subtraction.
Oh.
Okay.
So like as an example, if I was a GM and my player went, all right, I want to hack this door. I want to try to open this locked door. I'm like, well, this is an epic lock. And so it's going to be difficulty 15, we'll say. It's like, all right, well, I have an asset I can use. I have my masterwork lockpicking tools. I'm like, all right, that'll lower it to 14.
Okay.
Like, all right, now I also have helping me a master thief. All right, well that is assistance. That's not an asset. That's assistance. Well, like between your asset and the asset lowers the. I decide the asset will lower the number by 1. So it goes from DC like 15 to 14. I'm like, well, you have a master thief with you. That'll probably give you a bigger subtraction. So I will lower it to from 14. I'll lower it down to like 12.
Yeah.
So, I like the subtraction system better than necessarily the I'm going to get +2 to this roll. I'm going to get plus whatever to this roll.
Yeah. Instead of buffing the roll, it's nerfing the DC.
It's making it easier, which makes more sense to me. It's actually probably just a preference thing in terms of just the math.
Yeah. It's
So,
kind of
yeah,
like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it does the same thing. Whether you get a plus or the DC gets lowered, right? It's kind of the same thing.
Now, it also limits it too, so it's like, well, you can use one asset, all right? And you can have this, the GM can limit the number of assistants. Like, well, one lock, you can't really have the entire party helping you with the lock.
Yeah.
Because like, there's only so much space. Right.
You know.
So like, it's up to the GM to kind of limit that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, one party
I do like
the
that
Master
aspect
Thief.
where like you can only do so much, you know. Not everyone.
They have another. They have a couple other systems that can lower that number within that system too. Like you can spend effort, which is basically exerting yourself to lower the number check even more. Like I'm gonna do super effort basically to try to get it. You can also use like there's things called ciphers too that can help with checks and drugs. They have ciphers that inject you with drugs that can lower difficulty checks too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that stands out to me with the assistance system in that is a lot of times, you know, when we're playing D&D 5th edition, we'll get into a moment where it's like, I want to investigate this room, and then someone who maybe isn't so good at investigating things, maybe they have a lower wisdom, you know, they're going to help you with that. So, I mean, really, somebody who's not as good at investigation helping you might not really help you a whole lot, but you're still getting advantage just because they're giving you the help action.
It's the same amount of help as if someone who is like an expert at investigating were to help you look.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, 5th edition doesn't really make sense in that regard.
Yeah, so I think the assistance is something that I might actually end up pulling into my games of 5th edition.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just for me, it's a math preference. Like subtracting rather than going, well, you give a +2, you give a +1, yeah. I just go, okay, well, the number's just getting lower. I'm ticking the number down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean,
I agree.
because that system's also interesting in that the Game Master never rolls any dice.
Oh.
There is no dice rolling on the Game Master's part. It's always the player. So that's also an interesting point. Yes, I know.
They took my clickety clack.
Okay, so I'll play Numenera, but I won't be the game master.
Yeah.
What's interesting, Numenera is also kind of a science fantasy setting.
Ooh.
It's like it's under the principle that any advanced technology that's advanced enough is basically magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's basically kind of a sci-fi setting.
I can get behind that.
Yes. And, I mean, if we're talking about sci-fi, I guess we should move on to probably one of the biggest sci-fi franchises of all time.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, it used to be. I don't know if it still is.
Let me
after
tell
the
you,
travesty that is the latest of the movies.
No, it's fine. You don't understand because the best meme I saw regarding this, it was the Mandalorian with the baby looking at Ray and going, look at me, I'm Star Wars now. I'm Star Wars now.
That might save it.
know.
That might save it.
Mandalorian's very good. I mean, obviously we're talking about Star
Mandalorian
Wars.
is very good.
And I just have to say, like, I love the practical effects feel they had for the Mandalorian. Just not just entirely CGI. I love that.
Yeah, Mandalorian was a masterpiece.
Still is.
Quite good.
Season 2.
And 2 in
But anyway.
end of October. Anyway, yeah, sorry. Star Wars. I don't know if you know Star Wars. Star Wars has had a very interesting history when it comes to role-playing games. Like it's had a couple of its own systems, and one of the newer ones is Fantasy Flight. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Fantasy Flight games?
No.
Lance, I think you know that I haven't.
Yes,
I have not
but
branched
not
much far past 5th edition.
Right.
First.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
Yes.
you might know them because they do a bunch of board games.
Hmm.
They,
Well,
they
I'm
do a
unaware.
lot of board games. Arkham Horror. They have the Marvel license too. Haven't done any RPGs for the Marvel yet. Yet.
Well, I should probably look into
But
it.
they have the Star Wars license, and they have their own system. It's a very cinematic system because there's a lot of you want your clickety clacks. They have their own proprietary clickety clacks, which took me a bit to get used to. Because they have different facings that say like success, failure, triumph, which is basically advantage. Success, failure, triumph, or advantage, triumph. I forget what the negative one. I think that might be the failure. And there's also, the crit fail and crit succeed, which, oh boy. That's more about interpreting the dice. So, for example, one of the best examples I have is like, all right, I'm shooting at a stormtrooper, right? I roll my dice. I add up. You create a dice pool. It's very Vampire the Masquerade, where you create a dice pool. Like, here's my attack with my stat, and just give me upgrade. You make a dice pool. The GM adds negative dice to it. So he's like, well, he's hiding behind cover. You have negative dice, so you have less chance of hitting.
Yeah.
So you can roll no successes, but you're like, well, I rolled 3 triumphs on here, which is like advantage, basically. So I'm going to use the advantages here. I'm going to interpret that. So I'm not going to hit the dude, but I accidentally hit like the electric panel behind him, which shuts the door. So it's going to take longer for his reinforcements to get here.
Okay. Or maybe you shoot his cover, and then now he has less cover than he did before.
Right. Basically, it's up to you to decide. You and the GM to decide how that works. It's like, well, you didn't hit him, but you have so much advantage here that something positive is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I always thought the dice interpretation was interesting because it wasn't. A lot of systems, it's either succeed or fail. There's no in between, right?
Yeah.
Like D&D, I rolled a hit. I either hit or I don't. I might get a crit.
Yeah.
And I
can be
mentioned
so
that
much
system
more.
because I don't. Right. Numenera has something similar where it's like if you rolled an 18, you get a bonus. Or it might be 17 to 18, you get a bonus. 19, 20, super bonus. So, like, there's a little bit of dice interpretation there. I don't know how to translate that to different systems. Maybe you guys know. But, like, it's nice that knowing what I roll might have more effect than just did I succeed. It might have more effect than did I just succeed or did I just fail.
So it looks like the equivalent of disadvantage is called a threat.
Yes, thank you. It's been a long day, and my words are not great.
It's okay.
About to play that system again. I can't even remember. Oh my god. But yeah, threat. So, and the threat cancels out, the triumph. Failures cancels out success.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to do that with different systems, but like it's just super nice to know that, well, I rolled all these dice, something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because it could also be, I rolled to shoot that guy. Well, I didn't get any triumphs. I failed, but there's a lot of threat too. It's like, well, you ran out of ammo, so you're gonna have to reload. Says the GM. Things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to. apply that.
I feel like you could expand upon it on critical failures in that way, where like, or even critical successes as well. Like for like just attacks, like sometimes it's like you just you do double damage and that's it, and like maybe you don't have a meaty hit, so crits aren't as important to you. But if you add, like the triumph and I'm blanking on the word that Lance was blanking on just now.
Failures.
Failures or whatever.
Threats.
Yeah.
Triumph,
Yeah.
threat,
Yeah,
failure,
that's what
success.
triumphs and threats. You can like maybe the GM rolls a d20 or whatever, and then based on that, how severe the crit is or how mundane it could be. Or for a critical failure, it could be something on like you rolled really high after you crit failed, so it's like you didn't nothing bad happened, you just kind of missed. Or maybe you rolled really low and maybe like you dropped your sword, or you threw your sword like 10 feet away, or maybe your bowstring snaps or whatever.
And they
more problematic.
And they did something similar with that in Pathfinder 2, where they introduced the crits and fumble decks that you can buy, or you can kind of make your own. And basically, you draw a random card from whichever deck is appropriate, whether you got a critical success or a critical failure. And based on what kind of attack you had, whether it was a magical attack, a ranged attack, or an up-close bludgeoning attack, there's different effects that might happen. So you might, bash their skull in, or maybe you miss and you end up cutting off someone's hand that's right next to you.
That's very Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
is
I don't
very Star Wars.
know how, yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do like an option where like, well, you roll a crit, do you want double damage or something else? I've seen the crit and fumble, crit success and failure decks. One of the things I like about the Star Wars system too is your average character has like 12 wounds, and stormtroopers don't suck in the system. They can kill you in one hit.
Oh.
Ooh.
But, well, they can't kill you. They can knock you to 0. Killing people in the game is actually very hard. Because basically when you go unconscious, you receive a critical hit. And you roll to determine what the critical is. It's a D100. The only results that really result in like immediate death is the result 150.
Right.
So it's actually very hard to die, per se. The problem becomes, though, every critical you get adds 10 to your next injury roll. So
I
like
see.
you can be like, oh well, I got knocked to 0, I take a crit, I get healed up, but I still have the crit because I haven't spent the time to deal with him. Go to another fight, get knocked to 0 again. Well, now we're adding 10 to the roll because you still have that crit.
Oh.
Well, I kind of like it because it's really easy to really get messed up in Star Wars if you just try to go in guns blazing.
Yeah.
But it's hard to die unless you keep being stupid,
Yeah.
basically.
Basically, don't stick your nose where it hurts.
I feel like it can also symbolize like actual like damage, like what it looks like appearance wise as well, because like you have however much. I know of a couple people who instead of having hit points, it's more so just like how long you are until your luck runs out. Like how long you can go without being caught lacking or whatever, for lack of a better term. And so like I feel like that could make more sense to where you slowly but surely, you go from battle to battle, and maybe this battle you go down, so you get shot in the shoulder or something, and now you have this like battle damage that is physically there that you could see, or like your party mates can see, so it's like, oh man, he got messed up. You know what I mean? And then moving on to the next one, you go down in that one too. Now like all these other like little things that like, this is where, this is the blow that like struck you down for a second.
Yeah.
And then once you get enough of those, once you have all those plus 10s, it really piles up, and then it's the final blow that actually gets you.
Right. There is results that get your limbs chopped off in Star Wars, as there should be.
As there should be.
But it's funny you mentioned luck.
Yeah.
So this system I discovered listening to a podcast called The Adventure Zone. I don't know if you've heard of that. If you guys don't, highly recommend it.
I have heard of them, but I haven't listened to them yet.
Highly recommend. They started with D&D 5th edition.
All right.
But like Dungeons and Daddies, sometimes the rules are a little flexible.
Most of them are.
Yes. But it's a lot of fun. It's 3 brothers and their dad, which alone is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Check them out. They started with 5th edition, and then they did the Fate system too. And then they did a couple one-shots with like the Fate system, and then they did Monster of the Week. The entire concept of Monster of the Week, who here is familiar with the shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Supernatural?
Oh, Supernatural was my
X-Files.
show for the longest time.
I still watch it
Michael loved Supernatural.
from the beginning. When it first aired. That's how old I am, by the way. I was there when it first aired, and I've been there since.
That was what,
It's
like
been-
005?
Oh, it
I'm
is.
probably
God,
wrong.
oh.
But it's
No,
definitely
I
around that
think
time.
You're right. Because they're on their 15th season in this final season.
Yeah, 2005.
Oh, man.
Holy crap, that was a great guess.
Yeah,
I
absolutely
just
right.
looked it up too.
So that's basically the setting of the game. Is like you are the Scooby Gang. You're, the X-Files guys. There's a monster every chapter or whatever, and there might be an overall arc. Like in a Buffy season where there's an overall villain, whatever. But there's a monster of the week. It's a D6 system, so you roll 2d6. Like 1 to 6 is a failure. 7 to like 8 or 9, I think, is a mixed success. Then like 10 to 12 is like automatic success. But the bonuses you ever get is like a +1 or a +2.
Okay. All right.
But they have this thing called luck. Every character has like 6 luck that they can burn to do it. So one of their dice rolls is an automatic 12.
Oh.
Now, here's the thing. That 6 luck lasts the entire campaign.
Huh.
Like, you only have 6 luck the entire campaign. Or, I forget the exact number, if it's 6, it might be more, but you have X luck to last you. Doesn't matter if your campaign takes like 5 years, you got that much luck. Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And once you run out of luck, you become doomed, which means the GM can do really bad things to you. So, like, luck is a resource you want to keep around and use it when you need it. But if you use it all up real quick, the GM's going to do real bad things to you. Like, real bad things. Like, monsters might get bonuses to hit you, as a basic example.
Well, that's no fun.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's a pretty good one. I really like that one.
Yeah. I like that too. It's very interesting. I like how you only have so much of it.
Yeah.
for the
Ben,
whole
what do you
game.
think about that?
Very interesting.
I think that it's a very good trade-off because at the same, it gives you almost this story motivated ability to just say, all right, I'm gonna use my last bit of luck to save like this story and save what's going on, and then I'm done. My character's pretty much gonna die, but maybe I could save the rest of the party.
Mm-hmm.
It lets you have that option. It helps you kind of plan out, okay, when can I use the last of my luck on everybody?
I think it'd be interesting to implement into like 5th edition and stuff. So like you could make it so where, you only have 6 of them, but you have like you can guarantee, like this is a critical success of whatever type, So like you could use it on anything. So like the way I'm seeing it is like I got my rogue over here, who's milked this 1 luck point for the entire campaign, and we're finally at the BBG. In that first round, I'm gonna come out and destroy him with my one crit where I get all these buffs, you know, like just a guaranteed crit like that. It could be a total game changer for like a really big boss fight, and it would feel so good as a player to be like, yeah, I saved up for this.
But then you do become doomed, so maybe you kill the bad guy. But the DM's like, well, you're doomed now. He takes you with him down the deep. The Balrog takes you down the chasm with him.
Yeah.
You are Gandalf.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, so I like that. The last one I have for you guys is something I think a couple people here like Warhammer 40K.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could be said.
So unfortunately, this system's not around anymore. But to do a little background, there was a couple systems for 40K. You had Dark Heresy, Rogue Trader, Kill Team, and then they did the Imperial Guard, which the last two were really just military RPGs.
Yeah.
So not great for me, because military RPGs are like, they're kind of boring. But the Rogue Trader, the wealth system was my favorite thing, because I don't know about you, I hate keeping track of like my individual gold coins in D&D and stuff, because I always forget stuff.
That's fair.
So Rogue Trader was a percentile-based system. Percentile-based system is basically like, on a D100, I have this much percent of succeeding, where if I have like a 25 in a skill, I have to roll a 25 or lower to succeed, as an example.
Okay.
Or 75 to 100, it's just however you want to do the math.
Yeah.
So the wealth system is basically like that. It's an overall party stat. It says you are this rich. So when you're trying to acquire something depending on rarity, you just have to roll that. And you'll get it. Now obviously rarity would dictate what modifiers there would be.
Yeah.
But like I don't have to keep track of gold, I don't have to keep track of silver and copper and all that. This is the party's overall wealth stat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be good for like if you were all playing rich nobles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because like in at least 5th edition, there's like certain classes that never have to spend money on like anything. Like they don't have anything that no expenses or anything that they like spend a lot of cash on, you know. But then there's also like wizard who like pours all of this gold into paper and stuff for new spells and stuff like that. So, you know, I think it's interesting that it kind of like puts a collective party gold amount, or like not amount obviously because of the whole system that it develops, but you know, like the whole party has this wealth amongst themselves total, whereas independent before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's for me. For me, I just, like I said, I don't like keeping track of all that necessarily when I could just have, especially because a lot of times in a D&D party, there's a group wealth, a group treasury, so to speak, and then individual people's money.
Yeah.
That they do anyway. So, I mean, I feel like that's just an evolution of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my characters lately have all been kind of living off of everyone else's wealth in the party.
The mooch.
Well, he's not really mooching. He got disintegrated.
Fair, he came into the party. He came into the campaign right after we played the Curse of Strahd as a side quest. So we were pretty filthy rich.
Oh my! Oh my!
Yeah.
Oh, the Curse of Strahd.
And then,
oh my God.
he didn't get any of the money from.
Yeah, Curse of Strahd being a side quest is what happens when one character is from Barovia and he gets banished by another player's character.
We literally had a quest that we were gonna do, and then we were just like, "Well, we gotta go get this guy."
That's
I
pretty
guess this
good.
is
I
what
really
we're
like
doing.
that.
I remember we weren't even like close to when we were going to be done for that session, but Ben was just like, So I'm just gonna have to call it here, guys, so that way I can have a week to figure out what I'm gonna do with you scumbags.
It's like, let me just read Strahd real quick.
We were like, you know what? That's fair. Have a good day,
Actually,
sir.
this is the same game when I came in. I was talking to you, Lance, about all the devious things I have planned for them. That's the same
well,
party.
we can't. Oh, this is the same party.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you all are so screwed.
Oh,
Listen, I've already been disintegrated. I don't think there's too much worse that could happen at this
Oh,
point.
oh no, oh no! Don't say that. That's a challenge. GMs consider that a challenge.
Ben has plans for this character though, so I'm feeling a mild level of safety.
for him. You have two characters in that game right now, Michael.
Yeah, that other one, I mean, he's basically just a walking bomb anyway.
Especially.
Don't
after
think
this
you have
last
plot
one.
armor.
I don't. I fully expect my character to die every session. I'm like, this is it, guys. He's gonna go.
Well, I mean, Ben's told me many things about that campaign, what he's got planned for you. But Ben also has some other stuff I think he wanted to bring up.
Ah, yes. I brought a few weird RPG mechanics myself.
Oh, challenge accepted.
The first one being 5th edition's advantage-disadvantage system. I realized
Flanking
that
is
we're
not
applying
broken.
I realized we're applying these to 5th edition, but can I just point out how weird the advantage-disadvantage system is in 5th edition? It's the only thing that has anything like that. It's just
I really like it though.
replace the math. No math. There's no math anymore.
No, just
roll more
click clack anymore.
Just roll more click clacks.
Oh, you mean to
this
say
is-
you have 4 sources of advantage and 1 source of disadvantage? It's straight roll.
Yeah, sure roll. Sure roll.
Yeah.
Good luck, noob.
But
Good
that
luck,
aside,
loser.
one of my favorite RPGs. I learned about this from my old boss, Tom. He's a super cool guy. He has played in a game with Gary Gygax. He is an ancient eldritch being, as far as I'm concerned, just like Lance here. He's been playing D&D since
I'm
like,
ancient. Wait. Wait.
Listen,
And
you
he
already
told
you already
me-
aged yourself with Supernatural.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Okay, but you know what he didn't do? He didn't age himself with saying, I once played in a game with Gary Gygax.
That's true.
It's true. That is very true.
That is, yeah. So he told me about this game system called Tales from the Floating Vagabond. It's a pretty old RPG. It came out in 1991. There was never any other editions of it. It was just the one edition. But they had this thing. The whole concept of Tales from the Floating Vagabond is the Floating Vagabond is a bar. That's door connects to any door that leads to any bar ever. So one day you're just walking to a bar and you just accidentally end up in the Floating Vagabond, and then you're stuck there, and then you go on these weird, crazy adventures with space Nazis.
Cool.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the main antagonist in every story is space Nazis.
I mean,
Sounds good
as
to
you
me.
do.
As you do. So they have
As
this
you do.
thing called the shtick system. Like, what's your shtick? And they have all these effects that takes place depending on what universe you're from. For example, the Roy Rogers effects. It allows you to make any trick shot you can imagine, eliminating all cover from your target. But you can't actually kill anyone except at high noon.
Huh.
Or
All right.
Kill anybody?
or you can't kill anyone except at high noon.
Hmm.
Because you're a cowboy that shoots trick shots, and no matter what universe you go to, that's what you do. Or the Newton effect. It allows you to stop anything that contradicts your understanding of the laws of physics from happening around you, no matter what those laws of physics are.
Okay.
If you're from a
Alright.
cartoon, if you're from a cartoon universe, nothing that would not be able to happen in a cartoon universe can happen. If you're from The Star Wars universe, that understanding of the laws of physics is what happens around you. And there's a bunch of these effects.
That reminds me of The Strange, which is another system which I will not get into.
Yeah.
Oh, suffice to say, it's pretty good.
My personal favorite, the Rambo effect, allows you to dodge automatic gunfire at close range, and only at close range.
Only at close range.
Yeah, it's a really weird, wacky system, but there's things. These are easily, you could implement them into anything. They're literally just the description, and how they affect the game is entirely up to the game master and the player. And it's
it sounds
crazy.
like just a fun idea to play with.
Yeah, it's just a really weird, fun system that's fun to mess around in. My second system that I bring is Council of Worms. Council of Worms, it's kind of associated with Dungeons and Dragons a little bit, but it's a little different. You play as dragons.
All right.
No.
And the thing that is really interesting about this is how you level up as a dragon. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing things, or if you've been going out adventuring constantly. The only thing that matters when it comes to leveling up and becoming adults or ancient or legendary worm dragons is how much treasure you have.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's fair.
I can't say I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So you could be a dragon that goes off and adventures and has this entire town devoted to you, and they're like a simple farming community, but they're huge, and you have all these people that worship you. And there could just be some dragon that just stole a bunch of gold from a bunch of kingdoms, and they're all of a sudden an ancient dragon, and you are still a young dragon.
Oh dang!
Doesn't matter.
Oh dang!
Doesn't matter. They're better than you because they have more money. What's up?
I'm picturing somehow this really big dragon, right? He's got a horde, one hell of a horde. And then this other dragon just comes along, and he somehow swindles him of 70% of this horde. And then this tiny little baby dragon who had 4 gold coins just erupts into this massive dragon, and he just totally, and then the other one just shrinks down into a little teenager dragon or something,
Just a wormling.
Yeah, it's like oh, how the tables have turned.
That's
That would
funny.
be pretty great. But yeah, it makes me imagine if you were trying to run a game that was not necessarily about heroics, or maybe even not even about story or anything like that. You just wanted to run a game where everyone's trying to get rich. Maybe the more money they have, the better equipped, the better trained they are, the higher level they are.
Yeah.
That could be a whole campaign right there. Just get money quick.
All right, boys, we're broke. Let's not be broke anymore.
Yeah. And the final thing that I have to talk about today is a RPG called Champions.
Okay.
Champions of Midgard?
No, just Champions.
Is this a superhero one?
Yeah.
Yes.
You like me some superheroes.
Yeah, me too. This Champions is on their 6th edition, right? And then they released the entire rule book in a book called Champions Complete. And the amazing, really cool thing I love about Champions, there are no classes. There are no classes. You're superheroes, but there are no classes. You don't pick from any classes or anything like that. When you're building your character, you have points, and the DM determines how many points you have, depending on how high of a level game it is. And the more points you have, the more you can buy. So what you would do is you would buy into a skill, or you would buy into a power, like super strength, or flight, or invisibility, or you would buy into combat skills, like weapons training, things like that. And then from there, because just buying in is a huge amount, you subtract abilities to get points back. So, if you wanted to have energy manipulation, for example, and you just bought, boom, energy manipulation, you have all energy. Doesn't matter what it is. And then you're like, I kind of wanted something else other than just energy manipulation. So I'm going to subtract fire, lightning, and ice, which leaves me with only, a few other options. Or maybe I'll subtract everything except fire, so I only have fire. And now I'll take my remaining points and I'll invest in flight, but only if I'm able to use fire. So you fly by shooting fire. And then let's say you invest in, like, armor. Really good armor, but it's made of fire. So you burn everything around you. And so you can do that, and you keep putting limitations on your own powers, and you create a custom hero. And the hero I wanted to talk about is the one that my old boss Tom told me about. It was his hero. There were 3 players that all worked together to build with one character.
Okay.
And this one character that split into 3 other characters when they were time to do heroing. They split into mind, body, and soul. Mind had all the mental, psychic powers, but none of the physical powers. Body had all of the physical powers, like super strength, but none of the mental. And soul, Tom's character, this is what he did. He took a maximum level of tangibility, intangibility, but he put the limitation, he could then turn it off. So he's completely intangible.
He couldn't turn it off?
He couldn't turn it off. He also took invisibility, but he couldn't turn it off. So it almost negated the cost entirely. And then with all of his remaining points, he put them all into max level mind control with a range of 0 feet. So he would step into people being invisible and intangible, and because he had max level mind control, just take control of their body.
That's
great.
That's pretty great.
And that's the kind of weird, wacky things you can do with champions, and I love it. Because just imagine, like in 5th edition, you were just like, I really want to play somebody who can do this, 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 and this. I'm going to take one thing from Rogue, one thing from Fighter, one thing from Paladin. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense, but it does in Champions.
Imagine the better alternative to Ranger you could make from all of the different subclasses that are better than Ranger. You could just take like those bits and only those bits. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
guys.
Yes.
I know we rag on Ranger a lot, and you're absolutely right too. So continue.
Oh, that was perfect.
Yeah. And the other
I can't argue with you.
Yeah.
The other beautiful thing about Champions is that it's a D6 system, so you roll a lot more dice, and the things that determine what is happening is based entirely on how you flavor your own superpowers.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah,
Sounds
so there's
dope.
not like in-game limitations on. Also, the PDF for it, because I'm looking at it, is if you exclude the back cover and the front cover, is still 240 pages.
Dang.
A quick skim.
A quick skim,
Quick
yeah.
read.
I could read that in one night. That's fine.
It's okay. That's still not as bad as the Pathfinder 2nd Edition players.
I could read that
rulebook.
over Sunday brunch.
Sure.
It might take me till
Let's
lunch.
see.
I'm a
Let's see
hobbit. I
here.
could read
Let's
that on
see,
Second Supper.
Random ability that I just looked at, stretching.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It costs 1 point per 1 meter of stretching.
1 meter?
Yes.
Meter. Isn't a meter like 3 feet or 6 feet?
about 3 feet.
It's roughly 3 feet.
Roughly.
Okay. I thought it was like 6 feet. I'm like, oh wow.
Limitations that you can choose from that subtract points. Always direct, so you can't use indirect stretching. You always have to go in one direction. Can't do damage. Limited body parts. No non-combat stretching. Only to cause damage. Range modifier applies. And what is this last one? Oh, that's a new power. But yeah, and each one of these subtracts like 1/4 of the points you spent, or 1/2 of the points you spent. So you can take multiple of these and theoretically get all of your points back. If you took 2 1/2s, and then you get all your points back.
Yeah.
And so you have this power, but it has all these limitations, so it's useful, but not in any of these ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a super cool system. I've been wanting to run a Champions game for a while. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
As for me, those are my systems that I brought, but I think, Mike, didn't you have something you wanted to talk about too?
Yeah, so Pathfinder 2nd Edition is pretty much one of the only other tabletop role-playing games that I've, like, played at all. Well, I can't even really say I played it. I've GM'd it. But there are 4 things specifically that I kind of wanted to bring up in this that I'm definitely going to be bringing at least a couple of them over to my games of 5th edition, and it's just because they make more sense to me. So the first of that being initiative. In D&D 5th edition, to roll for initiative, it's basically your dex modifier, and then if you're a bard, you also add half of your proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
But in Pathfinder, your initiative might be situational. So if you are talking to somebody and, you can start to tell that it's going wrong, so you might roll diplomacy for your initiative. If you are walking around stealthily and, you gain an upper hand through your stealth, you might roll stealth for initiative. So it's all situational based on what your character's doing at the time that initiative is needed, and there's even feats that you can get in game that will kind of give you like extra bonuses to your initiative roll if you're rolling initiative using stealth or perception, something like that. I really like that because it makes more sense to me instead of just moving fast, because you might clue into certain things in conversation or stuff like that. So I really like that. And then there's the action system. There's no, you have one attack action, one bonus action, and your movement. In Pathfinder 2e, you have 3 actions to do whatever you want with. If you use all of them to attack, you will get a little bit of a penalty to your rolls, but I mean, it is what it is. You get to attack 3 times a turn if you really want to. Most spells are 2 actions out of the 3, so you can't really do 2 spells very often.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that makes sense because spellcasting seems like it would take a long time to kind of muster up that magical energy and then dispel it however you see fit. There's the delay action that you can take in combat, and what that is you basically step out of initiative, and then at any point you can insert yourself back into initiative, so it kind of helps you go, oh, well, I don't want to go before the fighter if I'm the cleric, so I'm going to go after the fighter. So I'm going to use the delay action. As soon as the fighter's done with his turn, I'm going to reinsert myself. And then you take your turn.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm going to be using it a lot in 5th edition just because I don't want people to have to worry too much about where they are in initiative, because that can kind of ruin the way that you want to play your character sometimes.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I have from Pathfinder 2nd Edition is hero points. Hero points...
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah, so it reminded me a lot of it, and that's why I wrote it down when you were going over the luck system from Monster of the Week. It's very different, but there are some basic similarities to it. At the beginning of every session, you get 1 hero point, and hero points, you're supposed to receive one every, so often. Your GM might say, every half hour I'm going to give you guys a hero point, or every hour. You can also get hero points by doing something really cool in game. Something heroic, you might say. And you can use these hero points, so you can either spend 1 to re-roll a d20, or you can use all of the hero points that you have at the time when you go down to 0 hit points and you're unconscious to come back up at 1 hit point. Super useful.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit of heroic to the game.
I would definitely like save them all up all the time, and then
They-
throw them all down the drain to keep my character alive.
Yeah, and they don't carry over from session to session.
Oh, okay,
So by the end of the session, you either use them or lose them.
that's fair.
That's a good economy to use.
Yeah. But that's what I had for you guys. It was just a few things that Pathfinder 2nd Edition has done interestingly, and I think has done right, that I want to try to implement into my games. And, maybe you guys think they're cool enough that you want to introduce them into your games.
The hero
Okay,
point
okay.
economy is more stable than our own economy. Jesus.
All right. I like what you bring.
He's
to the
not
table.
wrong.
I like what you bring to the table, Michael. But I have
Yes.
something to tell you all about.
What?
What?
Whoa.
Surprise
Yeah, I do.
twist!
I do. And this thing that I have to tell you about is that we upload all of our podcast episodes to YouTube at Travelers Tips and Tales. We
Oh.
also have an Instagram at Travelers Tips and Tales. We also have a Facebook, which is Travelers Tips and Tales, or a Twitter at Tips Tales. We have a Tumblr page that is Travelers Tips and Tales. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to go and subscribe to us on Patreon, that'd be super cool if you want. And that's also Travelers Tips and Tales. You can also email any questions you have for us at travelerstipsandtales@gmail.com, and we are pretty good about answering them. But yeah, we also just recently launched a website not too long ago, which is travelerstipsandtales.com, and so you can go check that out as well. It's just a couple of places that you can check us out.
Yeah, we're constantly preparing new homebrew items, creatures, things, for you guys, and we're posting some of it to our website, and we're posting some of it to our Patreon as Patreon exclusive content. So,
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I know I listen. Why aren't you other guys who are listening now?
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we direct people to their store all the time.
Do you? I didn't know that! Oh man!
Wait, Ben, are you talking about Forgotten Path Games?
Forgotten Path Games, I'm glad you brought them up.
I love Forgotten Path Games.
What would we do without Forgotten Path Games?
well, we wouldn't have been able to do Forest of the Dead if that's what you're saying.
That is true.
Probably wouldn't be playing D&D as much either.
Well, to be fair, me and Michael probably wouldn't know Ben
That's true.
if it weren't for
Well,
Forgotten Path Games.
That's
So at the
probably
very
fair.
least, thanks for that.
Well, I as owner of Forgotten Path Games, I actually have something special for you guys.
Oh, really?
Really? Ooh.
I think I
Twist number
talked to
2.
Ben about this anyway. I do.
Mm.
I got a miniature for you guys to give away.
Ooh, nice.
It's pretty sweet,
It
not
is.
gonna lie.
In addition to my role-playing game history, I do a lot of miniature painting as well, which goes hand in hand. So I have a very special mini. It's a cloud giant to give away for you guys. You can figure out how you want to give that away, whatever you want to do. But I think Ben's going to put up pictures or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I will
it's
be
gonna-
putting them up on our Instagram the same day
As of
that this
today.
episode will launch yet today. And go ahead and enter in our giveaway. Last time we did a giveaway, there were 3 winners. This time there will only be 1.
Only one.
Yeah,
will
so
make it
unfortunately, I can only paint so many things. I've been busy with life.
out. It's
Yeah,
okay,
I
it's
understand that.
okay.
Things
They
get
can live
busy.
with one. They can live with one.
Look, 2020 has been one very strange decade.
That's true.
Say,
Has it only been a decade?
right? It's like 2020 has been 10 years.
It's been a
best
century,
meme-
man.
Best meme I saw was it's God and Gabriel talking like, "Did you get all the events for the 2020s ready, Gabriel?" "Yes, I did." "Wait, you said the 2020s as in plural?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh no, Gabriel,
Oh.
did you put a decade's worth of events into 1 year?" "Yes." Oh.
Oh man. Oh Nards.
Gabriel needs to get fired.
That's one of the best memes I've seen for this year.
All right. Well, Lance, it's been great having you on the podcast. We're happy that we got to have you come on and talk to us about some fun little game mechanics.
Anytime
Yeah.
you guys want, I'm
Would you like to
more
be,
than happy to.
Would you
Now,
like to be our
please let
first
me
ever
out of this.
returning guest?
Well, you have me stuck in a nondescript building right now, so sure.
Yeah, it
You
says
don't have a
It
choice.
says forgotten path on the front, I think.
Oh, maybe you're right. He's trying to do a callback to the earlier joke.
Yeah.
Dang it. But yeah. Anytime you guys want, as long as it works in the schedule, it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
It's been a lot of fun hanging with you guys, so.
Next time we want to hear stories. We want to hear all the stories.
Well, I'll tell you one after we're done. I'll give you one after we're done.
That's
So many
fair.
stories.
Just
I
for
have-
us.
I have stories about that Arden Bartley character Russell talked about. I ran most of those games, so let me tell you, he left out some things.
All right. So with that, guys, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day. This has been Travelers, Tips, and Tales.
Bye.
Bye. Where's the honey mustard?